Hey everyone, my name is Dominic, and my friend that you'll see here in a little bit is named Dave. We've both been Philadelphia sports fans for as long as we can remember, and chances are, if you're here too, you understand that being a Philadelphia sports fan is not easy. More often than not, two out of the four teams are having what can barely be described as rough seasons. Sorry, soccer fans, sucks to suck. So, with the extra time that the pandemic gave us, we decided to create an outlet for our frustrations. Although we certainly plan on giving credit where credit is due, we have a feeling that there will be plenty of opportunities for us to air our grievances about some of the amazingly terrible decisions our teams have a habit of making. Thank you for stopping by, and we hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the first Struggle Bus podcast. First up in the bus, Carson Wentz. What lies in wait for his future? What exactly is it that Jalen Hurts has that he doesn't? In the bus for the Sixers, Ben Simmonds. Where is his shot that we've heard so much about? It certainly didn't show up last night against the Celtics. In the bus for the Flyers, the captain, Claude Giroux. What happened last year in the playoffs? He was a leader on the bench, but on the ice and in the stats, he definitely wasn't. Finally, in the bus for the Phillies, all of the upper management. Have they lost their minds? Why do they keep shooting themselves in the foot? Will JT Realmuto be here in the spring? Is Bryce Harper wasted on Philly? These questions and more will be answered in the hour to come. But first, Dave, how about that game on Sunday?
It was very surprising. I know it was surprising to me, and I'm sure to you as well, along with the rest of the Delaware Valley.
Oh, yeah.
I really don't think many of us thought that they would upset the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
While a lot of people were pushing for Jalen Hurts to come in, I don't think we expected it to have this effect this soon.
Absolutely. And I mean, Jalen Hurts was a dark horse. We didn't know. We didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously, we have the film from college, but we had no idea what to expect, you know. But the fact that he came in was able to knock off one of the best statistically defenses in the game, you know. I mean, that's got to attest to something, you know. And it seems to be clear that management's decision to hold off Carson Wentz or to hold on to Carson Wentz through these past few games after some questionable performances was quite a mistake. But we'll get to Jalen Hurts in a second. What did you think about the game overall?
Well, let's take a look at the offense here. The offense, I think there was a lot of positive things that came out of this game. For one, I believe that this was the first game that the offensive line actually showed up to the field.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't there before. I mean, if they weren't there, honestly, nobody there would have given better protection to Carson Wentz than what we had. He was under pressure every single throw. It didn't have any time at all. This Sunday, though, Jalen Hurts had time.
Mm-hmm.
He was pressured, though. He was hit, but it wasn't that frequent. He scrambled out of the pocket. He did a nice job of getting away with it, which complements the offensive line. But I think they finally showed up.
I was about to say that Wentz's indecisiveness in the pocket has to contribute something. Like, you can't, like, the more time you're in the pocket, the more chance there is you're going to get hit, you know, and which I think on the offense, on the subject of the offense, I think a huge thing was Jalen's decisiveness. You know, the plays didn't last long relatively, you know. If he got stuck and he saw a route to run, he wasn't waiting for a receiver to open. He was taken, you know, and that's a big thing. And that contributes to the offensive lines, you know, their ability to keep him from getting sacked and to keep him from getting in situations where he shouldn't be in.
And quite frankly, another thing that not only helps the offensive line, but helps Jalen Hurts as well, is the running game. Now, this is not something that we saw much of under Doug Peterson's play calling with Carson Wentz. And you see Miles Sanders end up running the ball like 5 times, 6 times a game. Mm-hmm. And he's a very talented running back. You know, he's one of the better running backs in the league, and he should be getting it more. And I think we saw what at least that he should be getting this Sunday. We saw him run the ball 14 times, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. In the league, he averages the most yards per carry, I think second to Nick Chubb. He's an incredible running back, and he needs to be getting the ball more.
100%. And, you know, it begs the question, you know, obviously Sanders having the opportunity to run the ball is awesome, you know, but where does that come from? You know, there's been controversy over whether Doug Peterson is calling the right calls. But, the fact that the plays that he's called the fact that he's willing to give the ball is a bit contradictory to the plays he's been calling in the past, because that's his decision to give Sanders the ball came from the same person to not give Sanders the ball for the majority of the season. So, what's going on with him? What changed?
Honestly, I think that he might have too much faith in Carson Wentz. I think that he puts too much of his faith in him. He tries to put too much of an emphasis on the passing game when he's in, and he honestly trusts him. He trusts him too much. Now, Carson Wentz, he has the potential to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but he needs to be complemented with a running game. No quarterback can make it in this league without a running game as well. It's absolutely essential. And Doug Peterson, he probably sees Jalen Hurts come in, and he obviously doesn't trust him as much, and that's probably a big reason with the hesitation of how long it took for him to get in a game.
Yeah.
But I think that he had Miles Sanders run the ball more as an attempt to free things up for Hurts.
Yeah. On Peterson's play calling, though, do you think it was justified for him to trust Wentz to throw the ball so much with the wide receiver core that we had? Because there's no DeAndre Hopkins on the Eagles. There's no Michael Thomas on the Eagles. We don't have a star wide receiver. And at the moment it seems like Jalen Reagor's the best we got. So the question begs is, first of all, trusting Wentz to throw the ball after so much time when there was proof that he wasn't the best at it is one issue. But the second issue is, why wasn't he able to recognize that we might not have the wide receiver core for it?
That's a great question. And I definitely agree with us being depleted at wide receiver, honestly. We have Jalen Reagor. He could be a good young talent. Alshon Jeffrey, he shows up once in a while when he's not hurt.
Yeah.
Obviously Deshaun Jackson, last few years, we were looking forward to him playing for us and, playing like 2 games. Then after that, we have Greg Ward. For us, he's solid. On most other teams, he's in the practice squad.
I was about to say, by our standards, yeah.
And then we have Travis Fulgham, who had 2 incredible games and then has just disappeared.
Yeah.
We simply do not have the wide receivers to have been trusting Carson Wentz to throw the ball as often as he did. Like I said before, we needed to run the football more than 6 times a game.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it.
Yeah. And I think, with the like I said, the number 1 defense in the league at the moment, well, statistically, we had no hope in wide receiver. Like, they were just, it was a miracle that we got any passes in. It was just, so the running game might have been it might have been forced because we couldn't make it. Our wide receiver matchups, against their defensemen, it just wouldn't have worked. But
I'm absolutely with you there. Like, when you integrate the running game into an offense, it keeps the defense honest. It keeps the corners, it keeps the safeties, the linebackers. They all have to be honest about it. What you see in these pass games, they're glued to our receivers because they can almost always bet that it is going to be a pass. And our receivers, they can't shake that. They're not talented enough to shake that any kind of defense.
Nope.
So that's why you've seen when Wentz is in, nobody's open. Almost ever. Nobody's open. The only person that ever got open was Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
And I think on Sunday you saw some of our receivers getting open, and I believe that's a direct result of us running the football.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. On the subject of the Saints defense, though, do you think that they were expecting just unlimited passes? Like what? Because, obviously Jalen Hurts is some college film, right? But he's never played in the NFL before. They don't have anything to go off of. So how much is it that, the Saints didn't know? Like Jalen Hurts is an unknown. So, like, how much of the Eagles' success is contributed to the fact that nobody knew what was going to happen with Jalen Hurts, as a on a spectrum of like him not having any film and him being just all skill that he had, the game that he had.
Well, I think a lot of it honestly has to do with that there is not much film on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't see him do much, and even when he has been in, he hasn't really thrown the ball at all.
Uh-huh.
What we've seen for the most part is read options.
Yeah.
It's just constant read options anytime that he had been in prior. So that's probably what the Saints were looking at, and it makes me even more confused why Doug, on third downs and fourth downs, kept going to the read option.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that the Saints defense could go to expect that would happen, and he kept going to it.
Yeah.
And, we picked up a few fourth downs during the game. We also got stopped on a few fourth downs. Like, the read option on fourth and short where Jalen Hurts ended up giving the ball off to Miles Sanders, and he got swamped in the backfield.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's because the Saints are expecting it.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not the biggest football guy out there, but I mean, watching the game, I was like, all right, come on, like we know what's gonna happen. He's gonna get stuffed. It was rough, and I think I kind of got scared towards the end of the game because I mean, Jalen Hurts is confident, and we needed that. Don't get me wrong. Like coming from Carson Wentz, we needed somebody who was confident who was gonna be decisive. But towards the end of the game, it kind of got scary, like because he got really comfortable running the ball. And especially towards the end, when he fumbled it and the Saints got the ball back and it almost looked like we were going to tie or maybe even lose, that was a little bit – I mean, not the biggest worry in the world from that game at all, but that was definitely a place where I got a little worried.
Well, to me, that's another bad play calling decision from Doug Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's his call to have Jalen Hurts run the football. I mean, he shows a bit of confidence in him doing that. But who should really be getting the ball at that time is Miles Sanders. Mm-hmm. First of all, he was having a fantastic game, and we know that he's a great running back.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, he doesn't fumble that often either.
Mm-hmm.
What we should do to close out these games is just run the football with Miles Sanders. I don't care if the defense is expecting it or if they're not. It's better than risking a fumble.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's flip this then. What happened on the defensive side of things? Did you like what you saw? Obviously they got an interception. That was great. Obviously they forced a fumble. Oh, my God, the sacks. They had like 5 sacks that game. Phenomenal. But, what's your overall prognosis?
I mean, like you're just mentioning with the fumble, our defensive line did a good job. They always do a good job.
Yes.
It's one of the best defensive lines in the league. And a forced fumble towards the end of the game was big. But I think the biggest thing that came out of the defensive side of that game, in terms of good things they did, was Duke Riley's interception. Only the fourth interception we've had all season.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder why we only have 4 interceptions in the entire season. We have some talented corners and safeties on our team.
Mm-hmm.
So why? Because when you see them, when you watch these games and you see how our defense covers people, they don't turn around. They don't turn around and try and look for the ball.
Yeah.
They try and stick on the wide receiver or tight end.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that's just how they're coached.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our defense has been a staple of this team for a few years now.
Yeah.
And they mostly hold up and put up solid games. Mm-hmm. But it would be nice to have a few more turnovers.
Yeah.
And that's just up to Jim Schwartz and his coaching scheme.
So you think that this was a fluke then? You think this interception was a fluke? Because I remember watching it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I remember watching it, and I heard the stat that it was the 4th of the season, and I was like, oh, that doesn't sound right at all. And with a defense that obviously has been plagued by injuries, but
yeah,
it just doesn't. It just doesn't like you said. Our defense is a staple of this team. It's kind of what's been keeping me able to kind of watch these games is the fact that we can put up a fight on defense. But yeah, on that injuries point, we can't shake this. And, there's, a few theories about out there as to why we're plagued by this. But what is your opinion? Why can we not seem to shake injuries, particularly to people that we need? It's to the veterans, to the staples of our defense and offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very frustrating thing, and we've been going through it since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
The whole mantra of the Super Bowl run was next man up, man up. And it really worked out for us. And it just hasn't since. Mm-hmm. It makes it even more remarkable what we were able to do in 17. Because 18, 19, and 20, we're having the same amount of injuries. We're having more injuries. It seems like we're having more injuries than the rest of the league combined. It's absurd. It begs me to wonder, do we have to get rid of our athletic training staff? Or I don't know what we have to do here. I mean, I think the biggest reason why this is a lot of our players are older. Mm-hmm. We have one of the older teams in the NFL. Now, it's good for experience and all, but when they're just getting injured, it doesn't help anyone.
Yeah. So the question that would naturally follow that is, why do we have all these old guys, right? Like, why are we not picking up younger talents? And why are we not? Well, we are, but not in the places where they're the best. Howie Roseman, we have Wentz. And, all right, to be fair, like, I'm going to criticize Howie Roseman for picking a QB in the draft last year. It worked out, Luckily, it worked out. But in that moment, logically, it doesn't make any sense to me. You have Wentz, who, based off his 2017 season and parts of his 2018 season, is a good quarterback. Why are you not going out there and getting a Metcalf or a defensive tackle, or, just anything else at this point other than a quarterback? So, what does that say that we have all these old guys that we've been milking for seemingly forever, and now it's coming back. The chickens are coming back to roost, and we've been plagued by it.
I mean, just like you're hinting to, this whole problem, it's all because of Howie Roseman. Mm-hmm. It's all because of how he's decided to build this team, how he signed, what people he decides to sign, what people he decides to draft. Mm-hmm. I mean, the way he's drafted, it sucked outright. It has been terrible. And I heard you mention DK Metcalf. That year we took Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf. Mm-hmm. In the one game, just a few games ago when Seattle came to Philly, Metcalf in the first half almost had the same amount of production that Arcega-Whiteside's had in 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, that pick worked out, didn't it? And then you can look this year, right? Our number one thing that we need, a wide receiver. We so desperately needed a good wide receiver that could change the offense. Mm-hmm. And while we picked Jalen Reagor, and it probably is too young in his career to really determine how good he could be or if he's going to be a bust at any extent.
Yeah.
There was still somebody a lot better out there. I mean, me personally, I wanted CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys took him a couple picks before us, and that's just unfortunate. But when we made our draft choice, Justin Jefferson was still on the board. Uh-huh. And I remember watching that and being absolutely dumbfounded when we took Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. And you can see, with him up there in Minnesota, he's killing it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
He's probably a top I'd venture to say he might be a top 25 wide receiver this year.
Really?
Rookie season.
Yeah.
I'm
in complete agreement.
Yeah. He's getting a ton of catches, ton of yardage. He's getting his fair share of touchdowns. And
yeah,
it would have been nice to have him and not Jalen Reagor.
So what was it? Like, where's the logic behind that? Because, I mean, obviously, hindsight's 2020. You can look back on that and be like, well, that was a really dumb thing to do. But what was it that was so appealing about him?
To be honest, I'm not sure what they saw in Jalen Reagor. They probably saw what they probably saw was speed. They saw that in college he was able to get distance between him and the corner or safety, whoever was guarding him, and make a difference downfield, be a deep threat, which was what we desperately needed coming into the season. Now, that hasn't exactly worked out in the NFL. He hasn't exactly been able to make that deep threat. I mean, you saw in the game, Hurts just barely overthrew him very early on, and it would have been a nice connection. But how Jalen Reagor is mostly used in this offense is on wide receiver screens. Doug loves his wide receiver screens, and it works. I'll give Jalen Reagor credit where credit's due, because it doesn't work with anybody else that he throws the ball to for these screens. But when Jalen Reagor gets in the screens, you can see maybe why or what Howie Roseman and the team saw when they drafted him. He's able to make people miss. He's able to make something happen.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot of that as well is being able to get the ball, A, out of the pocket, and B, where it needs to go. You know, with Wentz's performance, because the assumption here, all right, even though that Doug Peterson won't admit it, is that Jalen Hurts is the quarterback for the rest of the season. I mean, you beat the number 2 team in the league, essentially, and you were the bottom, one of the worst teams. You know, so Jalen Hurts is in. So now it's we really can't go off of anything that happened prior to now, because the ball was never there for Jalen to receive, and even when it did kind of get there, it was only kind of there. Like there were no dimes really that could go down the field for Jalen Reagor.
I mean, as much as I like Carson Wentz and I like to keep faith in him and believe in him, but just like you're saying right there, you know, he couldn't find Jalen Reagor. Wentz missed a lot, and I mean a lot of throws this season. And, I mean, hopefully Jalen Hurts, we can see in the next few games him connect with Jalen Reagor, because, you know, I mean, he probably has the most potential of anyone on our wide receiver core, and I truly hope he does succeed.
Yeah. Now, this is so Carson Wentz. So by the time Carson Wentz is out, right, players have their opinions. They're taking sides. It's kind of like, you know, Captain America Civil War. You know, you have people for Wentz, you got people for Reagor, and the team split. You know, so Wentz leaves his last game, the team split. Jalen comes in, the team still split. So what do you think did it? What do you think made, because obviously the team played as a unit, right? Regardless, as if half the players were happy that Carson was out, half the players were pissed that Carson was out. You know, how was Jalen able to rope everybody together and get everybody on the same page? Because it wasn't just the offense that did well. You know, like you said, the defensive line did crazy. The defense was amazing. You know, so obviously it wasn't just the people he immediately had contact with. It was everybody. So what about his play or his personality or anything? What was it that rallied the troops in this game?
Well, I'd first like to touch on how the team is split, because it is right now. You have, and what I see to be the general trend is any player that's been here, I'd say for 2 or 3 years, they seem to be siding with Carson. And they're standing by Carson. But anybody that's a fresher face to this organization, I believe, didn't really get a chance to know Carson Wentz too well. So they might not have any emotional ties to him. But they judge it more based off of play. And obviously Carson has been very bad this season. And they wanted to give Hurts a shot, so they're standing by Hurts. Now, how does Hurts get everybody together and on the same page and moving forward? Because he's supposed to be the leader. The quarterback is normally the leader of the team. How does he do that? I mean, I think just by being him, you know, he clearly brings a spark to the team, and I think the biggest thing, it brings something different. It brings a different feel, a different vibe to the team, and I think that's what the team needs.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was nice to see. And I think the biggest thing that was nice for me to see was his confidence. Not only just in himself, because he was very confident in his ability, but the confidence in the team. And by him being confident, it translated over to, okay, well, now I can trust the guy in the back. If he's going to give the ball to Sanders, whatever it is, 6 times out of 10, I can feel that, he is going to set it up for Sanders to take the ball or whatever the situation may be. But it's nice to see this team finally has a leader. Carson's a nice guy. I follow him on Twitter. He's very, all of his posts are great, but I see why he wasn't able to rally everybody even when he was doing terribly, and it might seem like the team would be biased in that Wentz has been doing bad, but you don't know what to expect from Rager. It was just really interesting to see. It was really interesting to see, and it was a nice change of pace. They had some faith in themselves. I could see it. I can't tell you why, but you could just see that they were playing more confident. All right, well,
Absolutely. I think it was just that different thing being in there. And what I need to touch on too is the lead on the other side of the ball, Rodney McLeod. I mean, it hurts me to see it. It's a real shame, tearing his ACL on this Sunday. He's going to miss the rest of the season, and he might miss, I'd say, the beginning of next season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a real shame because he went a long way in filling the role that Malcolm Jenkins left with this team.
Yeah.
He went to being able to become the leader of defense, and he puts us all out there everywhere, and he was having a very nice season. It's a really shame. It's really a shame to see him go down.
Yeah, it was. And I just say I loved watching Malcolm Jenkins play. He was so great. And to see a piece of that finally, not finally, but to see a piece of that back in the team with, the hole that he was forced to leave, it was a shame. But this is, and once again, we get that back, and of course we finally got something good going for us, and then we lose it, So I'm happy that we were able to survive the rest of the game without him.
That's just how it is.
Oh my God, it's terrible. All right, well, what does this mean for the playoff? What does this mean for our chances? Do you think we're going to be able to even get there in the first place now that the Redskins have taken hold and the Cowboys seem to be building up steam?
Well, let me say this. I think the only 2 teams that matter in this division for this year, it would be us and the Washington football team.
Okay.
Now, Washington at one in time is a game and a half ahead of us with
Yes.
3 games to go. Now, we have the Cardinals, and then we have the Cowboys, and then Washington.
Uh-huh.
We could win all 3 of those games. All 3 of those games are very winnable. Now, Washington has they have Seattle, which on paper they should probably be dropping. They followed up with the Panthers and then us in Week 17.
Yeah.
If I had to place my money on something, I think we are going to have a Week 17 showdown.
Yeah, I think you're right. At this point, it's kind of, I'm going to say up to chance, but we're going to need, it's not only just upon us now, it's upon the football team to take a loss somewhere. But let's just speculate for a second. What is that? How do you think Jalen Hurts fares against that team? Because they've got the number 1 pass defense, arguably the number 1 pass defense in the league. According to Fantasy Football Numbers. So what? Do we just keep running it?
I mean, that's a very viable strategy. Obviously, Miles Sanders running the football, it will work. If you ask me, I truly believe that we are going to beat them week 17 and win the division. It might seem absolutely outrageous with how terrible this season is, but that's the NFC East for you. That's just how it is right now. I think we're going to come out of here on top, and once we make the playoffs, I'm not sure, but who knows? We just upset the Saints. I mean, obviously it's without Drew Brees, but once we make the playoffs, I mean, we're not even going to be facing the 1 or 2 seed because we'd be a division winner.
Yeah.
As horrible as that is, we'll have teams making the wild card at like 10-6 and 11-5, and then we're going to be here at like 6-8-1 or something along those lines.
Yep.
Representing our division. So we'll just get whoever makes the best wild card team at that spot, and I mean, honestly, anything can happen. And I mean, I think it's probably too early to tell, but I'm not sure what Jalen Hurts can do, and especially once we get to the playoffs. But I think it'll be good for him having Carson Wentz, who's, while he may not have played in many playoff games, he's definitely been to his fair share. Yeah. And he's experienced them, and he could be a good console to Hurts for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah, that on the bench leader, that Hurts might need as somebody who's inexperienced definitely would be helpful. Although I wouldn't say for the amount of money that's getting paid right now helpful, but definitely helpful. All right, well,
yeah.
Overall, more positive or more negative? Do we like what we saw?
I'm not sure if I can tell you more positive or more negative. It's more of a mixed feeling for me, but honestly, I mean, coming out of the game, I'm happy they got the win, but I'm not happy with the team. It's the same crap that we see every single game, whether we win or lose. It's sloppy. Every game it's sloppy. Ever since the 2017 season, we haven't had a single win that we can step back and go, that was a good win. We can't do that. And then that onside kick, I mean, we had seen the exact same onside kick from the Falcons and Cowboys. I think that was week 2, where you put it on the ground and it just kind of like it helicopters.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not used very frequently, so I guess it is a little odd seeing it. But I mean, it's just frustrating when, it wasn't even going to go the full 10 yards. It was going to go 8, maybe 9 yards, and it hit the back of one of our special teamsmen shoe.
Yeah.
A live ball, and honestly, I don't know how we got it. There was a lot of Saints jerseys in there, and we somehow came out with that football. We probably should have lost this game. But like I said, this is how we win football games here in Philly.
Yeah. That I don't know. I mean, I'd like to say, the fact that we're even able to beat one of the best teams of football is it's nice. Regardless of whatever mistakes we made, regardless of, this, that, or the other, we were able to scrap ourselves together and win. And I think with some more training, some more working on things, it can really, I don't want to say it's only going to go up from here because, Lord knows it won't. But, it's got to be at least encouraging that, we were able to win. It's something we haven't done. Maybe Jalen Hurts is the spark that we needed for this game, but maybe this game is the spark that we needed for the rest of the season to get into the first place in our division.
Well, I mean, all I can say to that is I hope you're right. Yeah. I hope it is the spark that we need.
Yeah. Well, speaking of what we saw, the Sixers had a game last night. And
they did.
I mean, they beat the Celtics by 9 points, and I'm pretty sure they held the lead the whole way through, which was encouraging. I liked what I saw from the rookies, the newer guys. I think they're hungry. I think they're ready, and it was nice to see. I thought they played a good game. Obviously, not everything's gonna be perfect. It was the preseason, so it wasn't exactly all of our game. We weren't displaying all of our game just yet, but I liked what I saw.
I think I agree, and you do have to keep somewhat of a lower expectation since it is preseason and the first preseason game. These guys haven't had a. I mean, it was a short off season. These guys didn't have a lot of time to try and bond and get together, and especially some of the newer people we've picked up that had a deep playoff run. But in terms of the actual game, first of all, I really liked what I saw out of Embiid. I mean,
Yeah.
he showed up. He only played the first half, but he showed us, very well what we've come to expect in him. I liked new additions. Danny Green had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
He let's see, he scored 19 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds in 23 minutes. I think it was very efficient, and this was coming off the bench. Honestly, if you ask me, I think he probably should be put into that starting lineup for the start of the season.
Really. And like I said, this goes back to the point. The new guys were hungry. They wanted it. They wanted it badly. They didn't care if it was preseason. I doubt it would have mattered if it was a playoff or a regular season game. They were there to play, and it was phenomenal. Maxey, I love what I saw from Maxey.
I agree. Yep.
Curry had some nice shots.
Absolutely.
So, so now in contrast to the Eagles, do we think that the Sixers' upper management made the right off-season moves?
I do, without a doubt. I think that this is one of the first off seasons in a long time that I think I can truly say that I'm very happy with how it went. Mm-hmm. The biggest goal that we need to do this off season is build around Joel Embiid. How do we do that? We need to go out and we need to get some shooters, and that's what we did in the free agent market.
Mm-hmm.
We picked up Danny Green, top 5 three-point shooter in the league. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Seth Curry has the greatest or the best three-point percentage of all time.
Okay.
And so in terms of picking up shooters, we did exactly what we needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
We also picked up Dwight Howard, which I think is going to serve as a very good veteran presence. Now,
exactly.
in the past, we've picked up veterans to have that presence, and they might have had the presence, but they haven't impacted the actual play on the court. And I think Dwight Howard can. He's been a fairly dominant big man in the league for the past decade.
Yeah.
And I think he can bring that here as well.
Yeah. So now, here comes the big question. Picking up shooters. Are we talking James Harden level shooters?
No. We absolutely are not talking James Harden level shooters, because if he came here, let's hypothetically say he comes here for Ben Simmonds and 3 first-round picks, which I don't even know that we have 3 first-round picks to throw.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say we decide to do that trade. I think it would negatively impact the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because we would each other. Harden's a great shooter. Harden dominates the ball too much to come to this team and have the same sort of impact that would be, then picking up the shooters that we picked up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing why I'm against this trade as well. It's because Joel Embiid's our personality. He's Philly's personality. Houston is Harden is Houston's personality. You bring these two players together, I have a feeling they're going to crash. They're going to clash, and I think that one's going to get salty that they didn't get the ball, or one or the other is going to be disappointed with their stats, and then there's this internal fighting, this internal bickering that is going to happen because of as a result of him coming here. He's a phenomenal shooter, and I don't think anybody could doubt that. But as much as we need, a good shooter, and I don't even think we do that much. I mean, it would be nice. But, as much as it would be nice to have him, I don't think it's worth it. But I think it's important that as, a Philly sports podcast, we have to recognize that there is a way for them to screw this up. They very well could trade for James Harden, and give away the best rookie in the league. Well, not rookie anymore, but one of the best young players in the league.
Yeah.
So playing devil's advocate here, what are possibly the good parts about having Harden come?
Having Harden on the team?
Yeah.
Well, like I touched on before, it could create some more space for Joel. Theoretically, it could. It could also, just like it creates space for him, it could create space for other people. It would take the double team away from Joel Embiid. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? You're going to double team 2 players? You're going to use 4 of your 5 players to guard 2? I don't think so. On that aspect, it would be great and maybe fun to watch. But I just think James Harden is just like Joel Embiid in the fact that you have to build a team around him.
Yeah.
You can't try and implement him into a team like ours. Okay. I don't think you can. And we've built our team around Joel Embiid, and I think that, I think we're set the way we are.
Okay. Well, so first, do you think we need to trade? And second, if we do, who else? What is the kind of shooter, the kind of personality that we're looking for if it isn't James Harden?
Well, quite frankly, I think these rumors are just there to be rumors. Mm-hmm. I don't think we need to add anybody to this team right now. I like the team exactly how it is. Mm-hmm. And I think that adding anybody more to this team could upset the balance that we have here. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if some trade comes up for, I don't know, some shooter out there that would work really well, like Landry Shamet, you remember him? He used to be here. Great shooter. We got rid of him. Probably wasn't the best idea, but we did. If a trade came up for him that was, relatively reasonable, we'd love to have him back. The more shooters, the better on this team. Mm-hmm. But I think the team is good how it is right now. And I think a big reason why it's good how it is right now, not just the talent on the team, but the coaching staff. Mm-hmm. We got saying, we liked Brett Brown. He's a good guy, and we got to know him, and we respect him for staying with us through the process.
Yeah.
But, I think we just got to a point that, our expectations weren't exactly meeting up with what he was bringing to the table, and it's time to move on from him. Very luckily, the Clippers ended up firing Doc Rivers, and now we have one of the best coaches in the history of the game on our team.
Yep.
So, if anybody can mesh these players to work together as a team and be a great unit together, I think it's Doc Rivers.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think that's his big goal here? Do you think he's going to be the rallying, say, for an analogy, the Jalen Hurts of the Eagles of the Sixers? Like, he's going to come in, he's going to rope everybody, get everybody on the same page, and we're going to have a nice, unified, confident team. We already have the confidence, but a nice, unified team. And is there any other room for him to do things?
Well, I think he is going to be that sort of a smart. Some of the players we have been coached by him previously. Uh-huh. So I think what he's going to bring to the table, it's going to work out just fine. And like I keep saying, I think this team as a whole is ready to go.
I definitely hope you're right. It would be nice to have a whole team for once. Not for once, but and at least for the Sixers. it would be nice to feel like that we don't have any big holes, any big things missing. All right, well, projections. What do we think they're going to do? I mean, the NBA, for some reason, they only have half their schedule out. But, let's just take a look at that half the schedule and speculate on some playoff runs. What do we think? Where do we think they're ranking?
Well, through the first half of the season, the schedule that's available to us, I have them going 27 wins and 9 losses.
Okay.
It's a pretty good ratio.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you bring it out to the full season, that's 54 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good season.
Oh, yeah.
I think in the conference, they'll end up being not the 1 seed, but they could make a run probably for like the 3 seed. 3 seed, maybe 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to take it into the playoffs, I think the expectation has to be an Eastern Conference final. It has to be. With how stacked this team is and with the coach that we just picked up, the expectation has to be Eastern Conference finals or bust.
Really? Well, that's bold. Reasonable. Very reasonable. But that is bold. Yeah, well, speaking of projections, the Flyers are supposed to start up in about a month and a half. A month at this point. And I'm excited with how they look. Now, to people who are going to watch more episodes in the future, you're going to learn very soon that I'm the hockey guy, and Dave has got just about everything else. But they coming off of last year, they look great. I don't think, obviously they have their issues, first of all, before I go on a rant of how awesome they are. I tend to focus on the more positive things to keep my sanity in this freaking city. But I liked what I saw. Last season, our defense was good. Our offense off the power play was good. Our goalie was phenomenal. Carter Hart was great. And it was nice to see. What had happened was the new guys ran with the torch. Obviously you have your Claude Giroux, your Jake Voracek there to help them. But it was phenomenal to see guys, we were trading for newer guys, pulling people up out of the minor leagues, stuff like that. It was great to see. But with that, there comes some issues because there were a few reasons that we lost to the Islanders in the second round. One of them was Claude Giroux. And now I'm a huge Drew fan. I love Drew. But he didn't show up. And like I said in the intro, he was there. He was the veteran. He had experience. He was going to lead the team. He has the personality to lead the team. Awesome guy. He did not put up the stats that he needed to put up to take this team into the next round, And while hockey is a team sport, you need people there to carry. Not to carry, to to at least do well. You're captain of this team. You're expected to carry a bigger burden of the workload than some other people. So that was disappointing. But, in light of that, we made it to the second round and the 7th game of the Stanley Cup playoffs with essentially not Giroux. We made it with a team full of new guys. And veterans, they were, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to throw the veterans of the team under the bus. Voracek did well. Couturier did well. It was evenly spread. But, we did it without him. And, that's exciting to see in the fact that if he can get on it this season, we're going to have a nice team.
Absolutely. And, last season was more of the first season I really started looking into the team and trying to expand my horizon to hockey. Now, of course, I know some of the names from a while that have been here a while, of course, like Giroux or Voracek, And, of course, and I picked up on some of the rookies as well. But this playoff run, I mean, I found it very impressive. It was my impression that the expectation was lower than what we got to.
Mm-hmm.
That they impressed, quite a few people, and it looks really good for the future. Like you said, I mean, watching those games overall, they looked really good. Defensively, they looked extremely strong.
Mm-hmm.
They looked not too great on the offensive end. You can see that with power plays and whatnot there. But I do think there's a lot to look forward to with the team.
Yeah. I think one of the more impressive things about last season as well is that they kept their momentum going through COVID. They were on a winning streak in January. Everything got shut down for a little bit, and then they started right back up, and they didn't lose a single one of their preliminary games. There was a single one. I think that is a testament to Alain Vigneault, the head coach. I love him. I have not been one to pay attention to head coaches. I have not. With Peter Laviolette, wasn't the biggest fan. I didn't really care. I didn't think that he did much. But listening to how AV talks, watching his press conferences after every playoff game, it was he has a sense of realism, but that is rivaled by a sense of confidence of the same magnitude. Like he just fits so well into this team, and he understands, and it fits so well. And I think a lot of it was on him that he carried them from regular season to COVID play, And even after we got, beat oh my God, I remember watching some of the series, and it was just up and down as far as like we'd win and then we get crushed, and then we win and we get crushed. And he was the same person throughout the entire thing, and he was not worried. I think he's a great coach, and I think he's going to serve this team really well. And I think that going into the season, he's got a lot more that he can provide for this team.
I mean, obviously, I can't speak a lot on this, but from what I can tell, I mean, we've been talking about people who are a spark through this whole thing, and
exactly.
I think he fits the role of that. I think that he was a spark last year and will continue to be through the next season.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's going to help the new guys that we got a lot. We drafted. I think the main name that we drafted was Tyler Forster, and he is, from what I've been able to read, a phenomenal shooter. Now, the way we get our goals is a lot of deflections, a decent amount of one-timers, but a lot of them come from scrap in front of the net. A lot of it is getting bodies in there, taking shots, and getting those rebounds. But Forster, he's a sniper. This guy is not now. I mean, obviously, as an offenseman, he's going to be able to get to the net and screen and get rebounds and do all this and do all that. But he's a sniper. His favorite part of the rink is the top of the circle, because that's where he just dials in. And I'm so incredibly excited for that. I don't know if we're talking first line level skill here. I don't think we are. I don't think we're talking first line. But there's definitely some potential in him with him in the lower lines to become a great, great shooter. And the other one was Emil Andre. He's a small defenseman, which, listen, I'm all for speed and agility and all this stuff. But when you're a defenseman, you're supposed to be bodying people. It's kind of hard to hit some of the mammoths that we have in the NHL when you're 5'8", 5'9". So I would know, because I'm 5'8", and trying to hit kids my age doesn't work well on the rink. So, I'm excited, but I think the scary part with this draft pick is that you mentioned on the fact that we had a great defense last year, and we did, and we do. but Matt Niskanen retired, which throws a wrench in the whole process, which is also a shame because he had 1 year left on his contract. But regardless, I digress. The two power pairings that we had was Ivan Provorov, Matt Niskanen, and Phil Myers and Travis St. And those two pairs, they were good, but they also had the chemistry. It was great, the chemistry. Once again, coming back to the chemistry of this team. It was great. And now that Niski's gone, we've got to find a replacement. So that means, breaking up, Myers-Sanheim or some of the lower defensive pairs, which also have chemistry, and doing that. Or you just throw this guy, you throw Emil Andre right into the mix, and you're like, here, first line, we don't want to screw with any of the other chemistry. We want to. He might not be qualified to be on the first line, but there's the consideration there that you might want to save the chemistry on the team, and save the rest of the chemistry and only have one bond break instead of all three of them, and try to insert this guy in a lower. Now, I don't know what the right decision is on that. I think I would rather the chemistry between the teams stay, because I think that's the biggest thing that's not going for right now. But it's just a shame because we had a great defense, and the biggest thing about the defense is that we had chemistry. And when you would watch Niskanen and Provorov on that ice, they just knew. They just knew each other's thoughts. It was so obvious. You throw a puck, obviously there were interceptions. Those are going to be interceptions. But he throws the puck to the side. Provorov's there. Vice versa. They knew the plan. They were great first-line defense. And it's a shame to see him go.
Well, I just hope that this draft that we just had this year is comparable to the drafts we've had the past few years. The past few years, these drafts have been incredibly successful. Our roster is unbelievably young and talented, and hopefully this draft can follow suit and we can fill some of those missed defenseman roles.
Yeah, and that was the thing. That was the thing as well. I remember talking to somebody, and last year I was like, honest to goodness, if we kept this team the same and just moved it into the next season, we would be fine. We'd hold our own. Obviously, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we shouldn't have drafted anybody. Great picks. But, the key thing for this team, I remember when they left the Stanley Cup playoff, was that they maintained the chemistry that the rookies built, that the veterans helped foster. It's huge. And I feel like I don't see that. Like, I feel like there's in teams that don't do well, there tends to be a lot of bickering, But with that team, like I said, they went through ups and downs all through the playoffs. And when you can survive that, you build a bond with each other. And with the bond that they had already had and going through that, and now they've got another opportunity this season to do even better things. It gets me so excited. It gets me so unbelievably excited for the next season, if it's going to happen. It was supposed to start January 1st. We don't think that the mark's going to be hit. It's probably going to get moved to January 15th. And I wouldn't be surprised if it gets moved back again, because Lord knows what's going to happen in the times that we have. But on the page of changes that the league is making, there has been one change, and that there's going to be a Seattle hockey team. Whatever the name is, whatever they're going to call themselves, there's going to be a team from Seattle, which begs the question, what happens to the divisions? So what they did is they had the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, and two subdivisions of each. And we were in the Metropolitan division. And so what they're doing now is they're changing it to just 4 divisions: Canadian, East, Central, and West. And now this doesn't seem like a big deal, It might not affect much. The biggest thing I'm excited for, and I say this with a huge grin on my face, we are going to have the Bruins in our division. And the Bruins are a good team, and I'm not excited that we have more competition in our division. But holy crap, the level of rivalry that we're going to have with this team is going to get upped. I cannot wait to see a game against them now that they will be in the division. I I think as much as the NHL has dulled down the ability to fight and get angry at each other without having to get thrown out of the game or get a penalty, I think the Bruins and the Flyers are going to be able to stretch that line a little.
I mean, for someone, again, not being too into hockey, I mean, I'm well aware of the rivalry at the Flyers and the Bruins already have going, and just being put into the same division, it really should take it to a whole nother level.
I'm so excited. Yeah, but as of right now, we're stuck in the off season. Probably not going to do another Flyer segment because there's nothing going on. We don't need to make any trades. Don't need to make any trades. Obviously, there's no draft, and we're just kind of waiting, watching training videos and waiting. But on topic of the off season, we now move into Dave's realm with the dumpster fire that is the Philadelphia Phillies.
That thing's been a mess for too long at this point. But if you want to connect here, the division rivals, I mean, the Mets just signed James McCann, catcher, to a 4-year, $40 million deal. Pretty economic if we're being real for a top 5 catcher in the league. If you want to look at it in terms of a free agent market, that's probably bad news because that is another catcher possibility off the board. But at the same time, it's great news. It's great news because the Mets were probably the second most prominent team to get JT Realmuto this offseason after us, and now we don't have to worry about them.
Yeah. So obviously I'm getting the hint that you don't want JT to leave. I don't know.
Oh, no.
I don't know who in their right minds would want JT Realmuto. And I think that from what I've heard reading articles and talking to people, the Phillies upper management, the Phillies owner, is giving him away just to save on the little bit of money that he missed out from COVID times. Is this accurate?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And he's not only doing that, he's lying about what he lost in revenue this season, claiming that he lost $2 billion of revenue this season when he's only lost, I say only lost, a couple $100 million in revenue. It's a massive difference. And when you have your owner here, I mean, he admits he's not a baseball guy. He has his baseball guys counsel him. But it's really discouraging, and there's not much we can do as a franchise when our owner just wants no part of it. He's not in it to win. He claims he is, but we all know he isn't. He's in it to make a profit off of this team. He's running it like a business and not like a sports franchise, and I understand that, but it's incredibly frustrating to the fan base. You have the best catcher in baseball. And will be one of the best to ever play that position. And we're scared about spending money on him. Mm-hmm. We're terrified of spending money on him. I mean, he's going to take a big deal. He'll probably be 5 years for $100 million. He'll probably make around $20 million a year, which is no joke.
Yeah.
But it needs to be spent. It has to be spent.
Yeah. It sounds like of all the deals, this sounds like the most logical, and the only reason it's not being considered is because some knucklehead in upper management is screwing things up. Now, are there others in the upper management that have led us to this point, whether it be head coach, anybody? Does this only fall on the owner of the Phillies being?
No, it doesn't just fall on John Middleton. A big part of it, I think, also falls on Matt Klintak. Now, he's no longer with us. He was fired and replaced, but he was terrible, absolutely terrible, and that's putting it nicely. Because, I mean, how he handled drafts, terrible.
No.
he couldn't draft for his life. And not only that, but, like, trades, I mean, he's the one that traded for JT, but we gave up Sixto Sanchez and Jorge Alfaro. Now, Jorge Alfaro, I mean, he's a solid catcher, but we can live with giving him away. The big deal there for the Marlins was Sixto Sanchez. And this year, we saw for the first time, him get to the big leagues and pitch. Absolute dominance from him.
Yeah.
Absolute dominance. And he probably will be one of the better pitchers moving forward in this league in years to come. And if we can't re-sign JT Realmuto, then it was just a 2-year rental for an incredible pitcher that we gave up. It'd be an absolutely terrible trade. You can look at signing Jake Arrieta 3 years ago. I think it was 3 years, $75 million. What are we doing this for? Like, he came here and he had an ERA of over 4. He sucked. There was no business making that signing, along with, and I mean, there's many others that I won't touch on. It's just absolutely poor decisions from him. I'm really glad that he's gone.
Yeah. So obviously, the Phillies pitching is a huge area that needs to be touched on. It was pretty atrocious. I'm not gonna lie. I can't sugarcoat it. It was pretty atrocious last year. How does that get built up? How does that get built back up?
That's a great question, because if we have an owner that doesn't want to spend money to go out and buy some pitching, we have to rely on our farm. But the problem here is our farm, it has nobody in it because Matt Klentak doesn't know how to draft. There's nobody down there anymore. Like, we just called up Spencer Howard this year, and he had an okay season. But he should be a staple of this rotation moving forward, along with Aaron Nola. You'll probably see Zach Eflin remain in there, but it beats me how you rebuild this starting rotation. And it goes past that, too. You look in the bullpen. I mean, I don't even have to talk about the bullpen, because it was one of the worst bullpens in the history of the sport. How did we get to this point that they are that bad? Yeah. I mean, part of it was because of injuries, and it was unfortunate. We had a terrible year of injuries that went through our bullpen. But a lot of it is because they're bad. They're all bad out there. Now, we have a chance out in the free agent market right now. Closer from the Athletics, Liam Hendricks, one of the best closers out there right now. We could go out and sign him. Will we? No, we won't. Trevor Bauer, he just won the Cy Young this year. One of the best pitchers in the game. We could go out and sign him. Will we? No, we ain't going to do that either. It really... So ultimately, to answer your question, I don't know how we rebuild the pitching staff. I don't know what we do with it, because can't bring them up from the farm, can't go ahead and sign anybody. It's going to have to be through trades.
Yeah. All right. So then the question begs, how do we get here? Like, obviously, this wasn't just a one-season thing. The Phillies, like you mentioned before, have sucked for a long time. How did we get here? What happened in previous seasons with, I can only assume, management's fault. This is management's fault. What happened? Why after years and years of struggling? I mean, I remember we got Bryce Harper. We were like, all our problems are solved. Like, we got it. Like the Phillies are finally going to be watchable, right?
Yeah.
And what happened? Well, I remember your expression. I mean, we would be talking, and before the season, we're like, oh, like, I can't wait. Bryce Harper's going to be a great addition to this team. It's going to be a spark plug for us. And halfway through, you wanted to gouge your eyes out because the Phillies were awful. So take me through how we've been able to secure Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto and these players, but still end up stuck in the mud year after year after year.
Well, to me, once again, it comes to those homegrown players that come out of the minor leagues from the draft. Because any team that succeeds, I mean, sure, you can add people through free agency signings like we've done with Harper. You can trade for people like we've done with Remuto.
Uh-huh.
But the biggest factor here is growing people through our system. We needed to invest in the draft. And, I mean, the last time we made the playoffs or were over a 500 record was 2011.
Uh-huh.
That team at that point, absolutely insane. But how did we get there? By trading away what we had down in the farm. We traded away our future. That's why we sucked for so long. And now that we're supposed to be on the other side of that, we still suck because we haven't replenished any of that.
Uh-huh. Do you think we need to pull a trust the process and tank? Because we've got, I mean, if you look at this in comparison to the Sixers, like when we were terrible, we got Simmonds and Embiid, and it was like we gotta be bad before we can be good, and being terrible, being slightly below average for years isn't going to help us, because we're going to be stuck in the mud. Do you see this as being the Phillies' problem? And if you do, what do you think we need to pull a trust the process?
I mean, to answer your question, no, I don't think we have to tank. I don't think we have to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Like our new president of baseball operations said, we don't have to rebuild. We need to retool.
Okay.
We need to fill certain positions. Again, don't really know how we add to these positions, given the circumstances. But no, I mean, we have the young foundation.
Yeah.
We have young players that are here that just need a bit more of a push. They can get over the hump. Even still, we're probably short because of how just awful our pitching is.
Uh-huh.
No, we don't have to rebuild. I feel like that'd be kind of useless. Not only would it be useless, but it also make me, along with all the other loyal Phillies fans, even more frustrated because we've suffered for 9 years now, and I'm not looking to suffer for another 9 more. I'm looking to try to make the playoffs next season. But I've been saying that for the last 3 years. So I don't think we need to rebuild. I think our new hire, Dave Dombrowski, I think he just needs to work some magic.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I can tell talking about the Phillies is making you want to put your head in your hands and cry. So we'll finish off on this. What do you think is the bigger disappointment? Rice and Real Muto being stuck in a team that can't do anything, or Wentz as a whole,
Well, I mean, they're both massive disappointments. When we first signed Bryce Harper, we promised him that we weren't going to be shy about spending money and building this team up.
Mm-hmm.
We promised him that we would build around him and that we were going to win.
Yeah.
We're shying away from that.
Uh-huh.
We're failing. Just like the Eagles have failed Carson Wentz for the most part. I mean, Carson, obviously his struggles also have to do with him quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it has to do with everything around him.
Yeah.
Our offensive line is aging. We keep putting Jason Peters over at left tackle.
Yeah.
We keep bringing him back every single year for 1 year, $3 or $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens every single year? He's old. He gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
People this season, I mean, the defensive linemen on the other teams were just flying right by him and getting a clean hit on Wentz within 2 seconds. And the offensive line hasn't been fair to him. The receivers haven't been fair to him. We're not drafting any good ones. We're not trading for any good ones, signing any good ones. The coaching hasn't been good for him. Just every single game, Doug has been calling terribly and not running the football until Hurts decides to come in. So, and then I also think that like us losing Frank Reich and him going on to be the Colts, I think that might be the biggest factor here. Because he used to call the plays when he was here.
Yeah.
And I think that him and Carson had a really good bond. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me, not next season, but maybe 2 seasons from now. Once Phillip Rivers retires and Indianapolis is in need of a quarterback, I wouldn't be surprised to see Carson Wentz fill that role. I wouldn't be surprised. And I also wouldn't be surprised to see him over there succeeding. Maybe not getting back to what he did in 2017, but something like it.
Yeah.
So who have we failed more? I think right now we failed Carson Wentz more because it's happened. Bryce Harper, we're a couple years into this experiment, but there's still time to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
There's still hope that this offseason that we make some moves and we fix the problem.
Yeah.
So I don't think we failed Bryce yet, but Carson, we absolutely have.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll leave you guys with something to think about. Have a great week, and we'll be back next week to cover more Sixers and Eagles. And if the Phillies decide to do something even dumber, then we'll cover that too. All right. Peace, guys. See ya.